right, round 3, we got the one and only Zinc versus Koukin. Zinc needs no introduction from Team Aretuza. Has been all over the place as far as tournaments are concerned, so good to see Zinc in this tournament. And Koukin, another common name that we've seen many a time perform well in various Duels of Runeterra and other tournaments across the Legends of Runeterra world. So pretty awesome to have them going head-to-head here. And as you'll see later, in that Fearsome deck, Zinc may have had a hand in helping out with that Fearsome deck, although I do believe they gave credit to a couple other people. I'm not sure if it was Precipic or somebody else in chat that had originally come up with the idea. I don't know. Everybody always argues about who came up with the original deck. You know, how do you truly know? Maybe there's some random dude in Iceland that came up with this deck idea first that just doesn't nobody knows, right? I don't know. I don't know why I used Iceland either. That was weird. All right. So anyways, round 3, Zinc versus Koukin. Let's see who remains undefeated. And here we go. Gonna go ahead and get into the game here. Yeah, and it's up against Soraka Tom Kench as well.
I don't think this is great for Koukin. There are not a whole lot of fearsome blockers in this deck. Soraka doesn't do it. Tom doesn't do it. You know, the broadbacks don't. It's really just Boxtopus off the top of my head.
That was a really weird sentence. Boxtopus off of the top of my head. Like, I heard that in a different way than I should have actually heard it. But here's the Krusty Kadra, though, coming out first. And, I mean, at this deck, all right, this is interesting. If Broadback Protector is in this deck, which I think generally speaking, we've seen more aggressive builds.
We saw it on the field against Zeno.
Oh, we did. So he is playing Broadback Protector. Okay. So if Broadback Protector is in here like we think, then this deck should have a pretty okay time dealing with aggro, especially spider aggro. But looks like we're playing... All right. So this is a version that I personally could never get really to be too consistent. We're playing Mist Wraiths on top of Spiders and Nocturne. I love the idea of this deck, and I think that it's even more ridiculous amounts of aggro than regular Spider aggro because of the Mist Wraiths. You can swarm the field so ridiculously fast, but I don't know. It just seemed to me to be too inconsistent, but we'll see how Zinc is able to pilot it here.
Well, if his deck title is to be believed, he is actually playing the KDA card, Go Get It, in here to sort of recycle the Mist Wraiths and the Wraith Callers and be able to get those down on field and still have the 0-mana version available in hand and really push some really aggressive turns if you can get that onto a Wraith Caller by getting that ephemeral version, replaying it, and all of a sudden, you know, that's like 4 additional units on board on top of the Mist Wraith that you already had.
Yeah, and I've been wanting to see that card be used. I mean, my first thought, and I think we talked about this earlier, Rekindler and Anivia came to mind with that card, Go Get It. And Mist Wraiths seem to be a great use of the card as well to just further expedite that process of getting more Mist Wraiths on board and increasing their attack. And Fearsome, I mean, I think this is why we're really seeing Spider aggro in general. Fearsome does work right now. There are so many units that people are playing. You can even see the board from Koukin. None of these can block Fearsome units. And there's 4 units on board. And Fearsome is coming in big nowadays.
Yeah, this is something that came up a lot when Deep was pretty popular. It was sort of a deck that was praised for having a good early game, but it did not handle Fearsome well. And this Tom Soraka deck kind of feels like it's of a similar vein. If you were playing a non-Fearsome aggro deck, Koukin has some extremely effective blockers against something like along the vein of discard aggro. Would need a Star Spring to, you know, sort of get the ball rolling here, but overall, I mean, Koukin's pretty low on cards already, and this is what I was talking about, that Broadback Protector. That's still not a Fearsome blocker, and we already have 1 Pale Cascade down.
Yeah, I mean, sure, it represents 7 heal, but yeah, like you said, not a blocker. Looks like we are going to play the Stalking Shadows, get the Doom Beast. I feel like that's always, no matter what you get, if there's Doom Beast in the option, you're getting Doom Beast. Such a good card, Doom Beast. So glad that it came out. And we even have Fading Memories in hand, so really going all in on this strategy of duplicating your entire deck. And the one good thing about this strategy when you're running Wraith Callers as well as Doom Beasts is you now have a lot of good targets for things like Stalking Shadows and Fading Memories. Almost every card in your deck just becomes an amazing duplication.
I'm curious to see how this next turn is going to play out, because aside from Pale Cascade, Bastion is something that could turn one of these into a fearsome blocker, but if the Nocturne comes down, you might just have to take all of this damage. And if we, I was a little surprised not to see the Doom Beast this turn, just because oh no, I think we would be one shy of leveling the Nocturne if we attacked with Doom Beast, Nocturne, and Onlooker next turn. Never mind, throw all that out the window. I had my math off.
Yeah, the other thing to note too is that Nocturne might not be the greatest play next turn because we do have these Star Shepherds on the field, and they will eventually get 4 attack. -1 still puts him as a fearsome blocker. This card, I love this card. I love this card. What are your thoughts on this? Because I've seen this in most of these decks, and I feel like it gets work done.
I play it in my Tom Raka, and I think I've taken advantage of the vulnerable like once. I usually just use it to damage my own unit, which, like, honestly, that's all I needed to do most of the time. But yeah, I am a very big fan of the card. Unfortunately for Koukin, though, like, when you don't have Starspring, when you don't have Soraka, you are not a deck that maintains cards super well. And while Starspring doesn't necessarily help you maintain cards in hand, it does at least push you towards your win con, and you don't mind throwing away cards to get you a little bit closer to that. But Soraka is sort of the big draw engine for this deck, and I mean, Koukin just hasn't found it yet. This is one of those decks that really needs its champions. SJW, Koukin has 6 units, and none of them can block Fearsome.
Wow, I was really thinking... Well, it's funny, there's no Fearsome units on the floor now, but... no.
Got a bunch of them in hand.
I get what you're saying, though, and I was going to mention, I'm surprised he doesn't have heal to buff these Star Shepherds up to even be able to block Fearsome. Basically exhausting his entire hand right now just to throw blockers on the field, and we are still going to push 5 damage through with this Crescent Guardian. Still have Nocturne available. Still have 2 Doom Beast, even Wraithcaller. And that's kind of what this deck wants to do. It wants to, like, just replicate a field out of nowhere again. You know, you get to the later turns in this game, all of a sudden you get 3 Wraithcallers summoned. There's going to be a big field. And Wraithcallers, by the way, they summon other units, and those units keep getting bigger. So very curious to see if we're able to finish this game off with something like this Wraithcaller. Looks like we're actually going to play it defensively on this turn as well, which is kind of awkward. I don't know. I mean, are you really worried about taking any damage from Koukin at this point?
I think it was more so just to get, you know, a good target for your Glimpse Beyond down on the field, or maybe, you know, just an activator for the Doom Beast. It's the Wraithcaller itself really isn't representing a whole lot here.
Yeah, I mean, it does get you a field. You know, it does give you the Mist Wraith in the first place to even get down, so I guess that is something to note. One thing with Fading Memories, too, in playing these aggro decks that do have Nocturne, one of the hardest things about Nocturne is actually getting his Nightfall effect off when you first summon him, because he does cost 4 mana, and sometimes you can have really awkward hands. Fading Memories is great for that.
We are currently technically looking at lethal on the side of Zinc Elemental. I think we had mentioned this yesterday, there's really not a lot of actual face healing in the Tom Rocket deck. It is generally just the Broadback Protector, Guiding Touch, and sometimes a Star Shaping.
Yeah, and, you know, it's so weird. We're opening with a Frenzied Skitterer, which usually you want to try to play that last, and it's because Koukin literally has nothing, though. Koukin has exhausted all of the resources. His 2 cards in his hand. It is not often you see that.
No, it is not. In SJW, that's 6 units. And no Fearsome blockers. It's 5, but I'm kind of hoping it'll get to 6. And I mean, you can eat the Spiderling, but that doesn't really save you from any of this. There are still 3 Doom Beasts and an Atrocity in your opponent's hand.
Yeah, this, you know, Koukin didn't necessarily draw terribly because, you know, he did draw Krusty Codgers, some early drops, but no heal the entire game. No Starspring.
I would say not drawing Starspring and not drawing Soraka is... Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's not ideal for the deck.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just saying, like, we had early drops, right? And so it's not like we drew 3 Quinn and couldn't get anything down for 5 turns. But
that is true.
But... yeah, I don't know. And this is the power of Fearsome right now, and especially Frenzied Skitterer paired with a leveled Nocturne. Your opponent is not blocking anything, and even if they do, it's all going to die. Zinc taking game 1. Nice. So now I'm happy. Not only do we see Spider aggro, we're seeing Fearsome aggro. Back at it, baby.
Yeah, you're just having a field today.
Oh, this is
a field a day today, aren't you?
This is great. Castman, what is up? My fellow caster in arms, thank you very much for the raid. Appreciate it a lot, my man. And here we go. Now we have another version of aggro. Is a little bit more aggressive than the Quinn Misfortune Scouts deck that we're used to seeing. We're going to go with the Misfortune Lucian with Shell Shocker. Okay. I
So
hate
this
this
is an
card.
adaptation that I don't know if it was the first time, but we definitely saw this broken out at the IQ qualifier, the 3v3 tournament a couple of weeks ago, where if I remember correctly, Zinc got second place alongside Morp, Adorp, and oh, I feel really bad, but I actually cannot remember the third member. I know it was 3 Team Aretuza members, but it was all NA Team Aretuza members.
Which tournament are you talking about?
It was the IQ 3v3. It was Zinc, Morp,
Oh,
and someone else from Team Aretuza. Morp's in chat, but he's telling me it was him, which I already knew. I need to know the third member more.
well, no, but Morp. All right, apparently Morp is
Oh yeah,
saying.
Morp was the saying that he put in the shell shockers.
All right,
Hunter V. There we go.
I still can't get on board with Shell Shocker. I feel like everybody is constantly trying to make this card a thing, and it just never ends up becoming a thing. Like, it stays in decks for like a week, and then people are like, by the way, this card's actually bad. I don't know. I'm not crazy about Shell Shocker.
It's a matter of how much do you actually care about that one health on that against something like Cytherea the Bold when, you are playing a pretty spell-heavy version of the Scouts. We've seen previous versions of Scouts that were like Rangers Resolve, Relentless Pursuit, and that was it. But now we're back on, single combat, I don't think is in a lot of these lists, but we are seeing a lot of riposts and a lot of, sharp sights. There we go. So many S words in Legends
So
of
many
Runeterra these days.
words.
I was thinking, I wanted to say star, and I was like, it's definitely not star.
Looks like we are okay. We're gonna get the Pale Cascade, which will then be able to allow this Star Shepherd here to trade with the Fleet for the Tracker, unless
we sharp sight
we
it.
sharp sight it. And yeah, sharp sight, a new card recently coming out in the most recent Call of the Mountain expansion, and it's doing work. I mean, it's in a lot of these scout decks that we've been seeing. I mean, 2 mana +2/+2 feels really good. The whole elusive thing, I don't think really ever comes into play, but hey, it's a nice little addition to add.
I mean, it has come up a lot, actually. I feel like every time that we've seen an elusive deck, they end up playing against a scout deck, and the sharp sight comes up ever since the first time that we saw it in Duels of Runeterra 16.
That's the time I
We're
remember.
on 17 now.
That's it with
16 with Black Boss, yeah.
Black. Oh no, the time I was gonna say was with Pat.
Against Black
Oh,
Boss.
that was Black Boss he's playing against. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. So,
I don't know where I keep all this information.
yeah, right. So yeah, we have. I mean, listen. So back to the Shell Shocker thing too.
Yeah.
The Shell Shocker does give you an incredible amount of tempo, and I guess I just hate 1 health units for the most part, unless your name is Fleet Feather Tracker because it's just a good 1-drop.
I mean, I hate 1-drops.
Yeah,
But I'm not a scout player.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. So it does give you a fair amount of tempo. And we can see here, I mean, that additional 2/1 unit and still keeping that 1 mana, basically because of the attune effect, is very, very useful. And it is going to push through additional damage, especially if Koukin decides to want to try to use resources to remove it, because it is, eventually a threat. We have Sharp Sight or even Ranger's Resolve to save it. And I guess maybe that's kind of where this addition comes in, right? You have all of these buffs like Ranger's Resolve, like Sharp Sight to save this card, and then you have things like Bannerman, which I imagine are in this deck. I'm not positive actually.
I would say no,
Yeah.
since we've got Shell Shocker in here. Oh my god.
Yeah, if there's that many Bilgewater cards, probably not actually. So, but just buffs in general for Demacia and things like Ranger's Resolve that allow you to go wide and not really get punished for it.
That's it though. Koukin's still at it's not a bad life total to be at. It's pretty bad going into Genevieve, and the Star Spring is still extremely far away from winning the game. At least now we do have the Tom Kench to gobble up, whatever gets played on the following turn. But I think it's going to have to go with the Misfortune and play respectfully of this Sharp Sight, because if you try to eat the Genevieve, you're no. There's no way that it works out, because you have to eat the Genevieve, otherwise it's challenging your Tom Kench. And I just really like the position that Zinc's finding himself in right here.
Yeah, Zinc doing a great job of really leveraging this aggressiveness of the deck with these Shell Shockers. We are going to get, some damage pushed on the Misfortune, but Koukin, one of the things about this Bilgewater Targon deck with, Soraka and Tom Kench doesn't really have removal. It just protects its own units and keeps units on board. So yeah, sure, Misfortune down to 1 health. Does that really matter? Probably not. It's still going to stick around for a while. There's a buff. So Genevieve, especially, might not be Bannerman, but you really only need 1 turn anyways. Getting a Genevieve on to multiple Shell Shockers, yeah, that's a thing. And I can definitely see where you'd want to have as wide of a field as possible using those Shell Shockers. So definitely pretty good play there from Zinc.
Right, yeah, getting the astral protection down onto an undamaged unit never feels good on the side of Koukin. Would have, preferred probably to see a hush into the astral protection, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume that he doesn't have that. And SJW, does this MF level this turn? I'm inclined to say it does not.
No, 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 no. It's at 2.
Not without the scout attack, yeah.
Yeah, we would have needed the scout attack for her to level. Yeah, it even feels worse, that astral protection, because we have a star spring on the field. That astral protection does so much work to level up, or I always want to say level up, to advance the win condition of the star spring, and unfortunately not going to get any advancement there. But we do still have plenty of units to heal, so we'll see if Koukin's able to rush this star spring win con here. At this point, I feel like that's what Koukin's going to need to do to win this game.
That's generally what this deck has to do to win the game, yeah.
And okay, wait, did that? Oh, okay.
So
I was like, why does
happening
Genevieve come back? All right,
Yeah,
there it is.
Genevieve is going to pop out
Yeah.
of the Tom Kench and then +1/+1 the board.
Oh, that's a summon effect.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, really heads up by Zinc then to get that pull first onto the Tom Kench. Okay, it's not going to matter, but still, that would have been nuts. Definitely heads up by Zinc, and this is a great Ranger's Resolve. It is going to save 1, 2,
Literally
3
everything.
units from dying. Oh, yeah, actually, yeah, and the misfortune. So, wow. That is nuts.
And critically going to get the Soraka off the field, as well as a couple of these other units, which, like, the board presence out of Koukin obviously matters because you do need to block all of these units to survive on the following turn, but also just Star Shaping is now a lot farther away from winning the game than it would have been previously.
Yeah, not having all of those damage units to heal really hurts. And Jesus, that is, wow. Never has a 1-mana burst speed spell felt so good to draw this late in the game. I mean, it's probably not the best draw, but still not bad. Jeez.
I mean, it's not like you really wanted a unit, right? Your board's pretty full.
Yeah,
Your
yeah.
opponent doesn't have a lot of blockers. Soraka's probably the best thing that Koukin could have tried to develop here, but he needs to go a little bit wider if he's going to survive this. But, I mean, the MF levels this turn. She is going to die to the Rocket here because she does still have vulnerable, and we're shakedowning a unit that already has vulnerable, so a little bit of wasted potential here on the side of Koukin, but, it is still going to kill the MF before she actually does get to level.
Yeah, and that's big. I mean, that... What?
Well, it is an astral protection up Tom Kench, so it went from 2 to 8 or from 2 to 10 HP. So
Wow.
Star Spring all of a sudden, pretty close to actually winning the game. If we see something like a guiding touch, this could just be it.
Holy Jesus. There's 5 mana left, too. We could even get an astral protection onto something like the Soraka. But yeah, guiding touch. What is that? 18?
19, yeah. Any unit that damages itself or any extra point of healing is going to get it done. But, just outside of that, because Zinc drew the Ranger's Resolve, I don't think he's got lethal on the following turn. And,
No.
it is possible that Koukin just survives the attack and the Star Spring organically gets it done on the following.
Oh,
but there's Star Spring number
that's gonna
2.
do it.
I don't think that matters, though, because as we had mentioned in the last time we saw this deck, first Star Spring's going to trigger, go up to 21, check for the end of game, doesn't have it, second one triggers, and that's why the game is not immediately over here.
Yep. So we will still be able to push what looks like, well, I mean, we need a unit on the side of Koukin. I don't see why we wouldn't have a unit, but...
Any unit you just draw, or any unit that you play, rather, just gets eaten by the Tom Kench,
Yeah.
and then you're only pushing through 2 damage.
Yeah, so it looks like regardless, that is going to go ahead and be game here for Zinc, which is why it was important to get rid of that MF. If we did have the MF still, it would have been a chance dealing that 3 damage there, but...
Yeah, that rocket heal onto the
Wow.
Tom Kench, just hyper accelerating that Star Spring, was the end of the game here for Zinc, who, just a little unable to find it, and that means we're going into game number 3.
So yeah, this is going to be game 3, and I got to say, even though they the MF Lucian lost that game, I am slowly but surely being sold on Shell Shocker. I still am not like...
I feel like that wasn't a very slow sell. That was one game that you saw it in, and you're already coming around.
No.
to it.
I've seen it. I mean, I feel like I've brought up how I hate Shell Shocker multiple times in tournaments. Like, we've definitely seen it.
It has been a while
experimented.
since we've talked
Yeah.
about it, so that is possible.
Yeah, it's been a while since we talked about it, but I don't know. Like, I like the interaction, and I like how it makes Ranger's Resolve, which is already, in my opinion, a pretty ridiculous card when you have a wide field. That guarantees you're always having a wide field. And even though it has 1 health, Ranger's Resolve basically makes it so it has 2 health. Suddenly it's a lot better. I mean, and Genevieve, you're buffing your whole field. You're always going to have a wide field for Genevieve. I like it in this particular deck, and I'm curious to see if it will be able to pick up a win here versus Koukin in game 3. And we got Vile Feast on the Lucian to start things off. Doesn't look like that's too great for Koukin. It will avoid the 2 damage, it looks like, from the Jagged Butcher. There's the block.
Uh-oh. We're setting up for some kind of 1 damage lethal onto this board, and it is not... Unless we're, like, 5 head playing around Ranger's Resolve to set up the Avalanche.
We could bait out something.
In which case we get blown out by Sharpsight.
Just play the Fleet Feather. Why? Because you have the Ranger's Resolve. Who cares? Alright, no, not going to play it. So we are going to play the Grizzled Ranger, which will still probably bait out something like a Withering Well, and this is going to feel so bad if it does.
Oh, it's going to basically be game over if it does.
Now, this is one of the reasons why Ranger's Resolve feels bad, because when you get all 3, it doesn't feel the greatest.
I feel like this is a matchup where you get... Okay, so yeah, Koukin was actually just setting up for the play around onto the Avalanche, but we still have Sharpsight, so... we still have Sharpsight, so it doesn't quite matter. And now, even if Koukin does throw off an additional 1 damage spell, we still got Ranger's Resolve.
Yeah, so this still feels pretty good for Zinc. I mean, this is 8 damage. The Lucian's close to leveling up. There's going to be the Ranger's Resolve now, because why not? We get to save Lucian. And, I mean, this is pretty even so far, because on the side of Zinc... This was pretty aggressive overall, but we have 2 Ranger's Resolve, which now are not really going to get a whole lot of value. We need more units. That's a good start, but it really is going to depend on if Koukin is able to develop something here. I see some, you know, I feel like every time we talk about choices of cards in Demacia, War Chefs comes up again, and I see that discussion in chat. Oh, I still think it's a good card. I still think it's good. It's just everybody...
Do you play it?
I don't play Demacia, at least not lately.
Yeah, okay,
so,
yeah.
I just...
Mister, I don't play Demacia thinks it's fine.
Listen. All right.
I'm listening. I'm all ears.
I think everybody got baited into not playing this card simply because it got nerfed. It's like... people just think that other people will think they're stupid if they say you should still play War Chefs just because it got nerfed. No, that card got nerfed. You're stupid. You don't know what you're talking about because it's terrible now. Like,
all right, check this though. How much attack do you think you would have in Legends of Runeterra?
Wait, how much attack do I think I would have?
Yeah, because right now I'm pretty sure I could shove War Chef in a locker.
I mean, what the heck? That is such a random way to attack this topic. I was not expecting that.
Have you ever seen me tackle a topic head on? No, I have to dance around it a little bit and then hit you with it.
So I just had flashbacks to my football time in high school. Oh my god.
Show it to him, Zinc. Show him Ranger's Resolve number 3.
Here we go. Might as well.
I had all of them.
And as we've learned by the one and only genius Legends of Runeterra player Trick2G, why
you gotta know him like that? I thought you said you liked the man. You keep bringing up old shit.
The Ranger's Resolve does not stack twice if you play 2, FYI. So, I actually love Trick2G. I like him. He's cool. He's good people. I'm sure he can take that in stride. There's the top deck Shell Shocker. So here's why I don't like Shell Shocker. Is because
okay, no, this is why I don't like 1-drops. You don't get this argument. I get this argument. This is why I don't like 1-drops.
I think this is why I don't like Demacia, because this is Demacia in a nutshell. Is hey, it's turn 7, have a Cythria, a bad Cythria.
You're about to throw out another Withering Well. He says, "Okay, you are physically out of Ranger's Resolves at this point." Oh no, it's a Vengeance. Okay.
So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We are 2 off of lethal. And from what I'm gathering thus far with this deck, and I'm not sure if it's because of the Shell Shocker or not, it seems to be running out of steam just before it's able to finish off the game. That is not a bad top deck, but I don't know if Zinc's going to be able to come back now.
I mean, that's kind of what we expect out of Scouts, though, right? If your opponent has too much healing, even though the 3 Rangers Resolve did come down and, you know, preserve some units, you still haven't drawn a whole lot of top end here. Grizzled Rangers Resolve, no. The Badger Bear is about the biggest unit that we've seen so far this game in terms of attack points. Now Senna coming down at 4, but, you know, we haven't seen any of the really high-end units like Genevieve Elmhart or something along those lines. And yeah, you can struggle a little bit to actually close out the game if you're not finding those. And even now, with the Anivia on field, Harshwinds is represented by Koukin.
Man, English is hard for you today, huh?
There are just so many cards that have the same word, and they're not the same archetype.
Oh, man. Is it... Okay, hold on. I've been wanting to ask you this. Is it archetype or archetype?
archetype.
How
The E
positive?
is silent.
But are you positive?
If you pronounce the E in archetype, we have problems.
Well, it's not necessarily that you're pronouncing the E. You're just kind of saying it fast. So it's like archetype. You know what I mean?
What kind of Boston accent you got there? Talking about archetype. No, it's archetype. If you say archetype, we also have problems.
Yeah, no, archetype.
Archetype is probably more acceptable than archetype.
Arch-
Oh, look at this. This is why I don't play scouts, man. I cannot handle the situations where first I draw a 1-drop on turn 8, and then I draw a relentless pursuit the turn after my board has died, and Zinc is just going to concede the match based on that.
I'm hoping that Zerth in chat is Greek and actually knows that for a fact. Because as always, shit just works right once again. Boulevard wrong. We all know that's usually what happens here.
Okay, for what it's worth, I am keeping score. We got 75 Boulevard to 3 of SJW. Congratulations, my friend. You really stuck it to me this time around.
We're getting there. I only have another, 8 months of casting with you to catch up. All right, it's Koukin. Koukin going to go ahead and advance to 3-0, which means Zinc is likely out of the running for the top cut. So pretty unfortunate there. Lots of Team Aretuza members, though, in the tournament in general, as we'll see here in the final rounds heading into the semis and finals. So stay tuned to see if Team Aretuza is still able to, take something home this tournament. But as always, everybody stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you, and peace out.